It's me, Agent Miss Annie. I'm here to give you your next top secret mission. Your mission is to identify and uncover all of the elements of art. Now, let me debrief you on what those are. The first element of art is line. Now, a lot of you are familiar with lines like horizontal, vertical, wavy, zigzag. However, what you might not know is that usually lines are used when they are enclosed to create the next element of art, which is shape. Shapes you might identify as geometric, which are those types of shapes that are recognizable and have names, but other shapes that are so wibble-wobbly that they don't have names and they're not recognizable, they are called organic shapes. Your mission is to identify both. The next element of art is color. Many of you are familiar with color from the rainbow, but we also need to categorize our colors within warm colors, which are reds, oranges, and yellows, cool colors, which are greens, blues, and purples, and also the sneakiest ones of all, neutral colors, which are different types of blacks, whites, grays, browns, and tans. Our next element of art is value. Value is the lightness and darkness of a color. Now, different shades of values are also used to create the next element of art, which is form. Form is when an object is not flat, but three-dimensional. We say it has form. But also, form within a two-dimensional artwork means that the image appears to be three-dimensional. Usually different values that show light and darkness, light and shadow, create the illusion that a flat two-dimensional image looks like it has form, looks like it has 3D. Our next element of art is texture. Texture is the way that something feels, that would be its real texture, or the way it looks like how it feels, which would be implied texture. Sneaky. The next element of art is space. Space could either mean the main focal point of the artwork is the positive space and the background of the artwork being negative space. It could also mean when the artist tries to create the illusion of distance and depth within a two-dimensional artwork. So let's see if we can identify these elements of art. Here is a painting by Georgia O'Keeffe. It is your mission to identify all of the elements of art within this particular artwork. The first one, line. Let's take a look and see if we can identify any lines within this artwork. Let's zoom in. Do you see any lines? Let's use the Line Scanner XL to locate those lines. Aha! Already we have identified a curved line at the top of the cow skull. Also, with further analyzation, we can see that the flower has a wavy line, and there's another wavy line on the side of the skull. In fact, if we zoom the whole thing into just the outlines, we can see all the different types of lines that are in this artwork. I would say that this artwork is approved for line. The next element that we're looking for is shape. Shape is any flat area defined by enclosed lines. So let's go ahead and scan it back into just its outlines. Now remember, we're not just looking for geometric shapes, shapes that have names, but we're also looking for those weird, wibble-wobble organic shapes. Do you see any geometric or organic shapes? We better put on our shape vision goggles to analyze the different types of shapes. With my shape vision goggles, I'm seeing a lot of flat areas that are enclosed by lines. I see a lot of organic shapes. I want to say that this artwork is approved for having shapes. The next element we're looking for is color. Remember, let's try to identify both the warm colors, cool colors, and neutral colors. Let's use the Chrome Master 5000 to try to identify and analyze all those different types of colors. The ChromeMaster 5000 has isolated the color into just the warm colors. Do you see different types of reds, oranges, and yellows? It's also showing the warmer neutral colors, such as tans and browns. Let's isolate it into just the cool colors. Do you see different types of greens or blues or purples? I'm seeing mostly blues. Also, it has isolated the cooler neutral colors, such as all the grays. I would say that this artwork is approved for color. Our next element is value, which is the lightness or darkness of a certain color. Let's use the Shadinator 800 to try to isolate and identify all those different shades of values. Now that we isolated all the obvious values, let's target a certain area and zoom in. Do you see some light shades, such as white or light gray? Do you see the area with the middle tones, like medium gray? Also, do you see an area where it gets a little bit darker with a darker gray? I would say that this artwork is approved for having different values. Our next element that we're trying to identify is form. So our goal is to look for shapes that are either 3D or appear to look as if they are 3D. For this one, let's use our form analyzing wristwatch to see if there are any examples of form in this artwork. Now remember, this artwork is a painting, so it is two-dimensional, which means that it is not going to be an example of a real three-dimensional object. But let's take our form analyzing wristwatch and flatten the image to get rid of all different types of value. Do we see how flat it looks? Without those values, this artwork does not look like it has form. But let's add those values back. It does seem like those different types of values, the lightness and darkness that show light and shadow, make that skull and the mountains and the sky look three-dimensional, even though it's a two-dimensional painting. I would say that this artwork does have an example of form. Our next element is texture. Texture meaning the way that something feels or the way that something looks like how it feels. Since this is a two-dimensional painting, we know that the real surface is smooth. However, let's look for the implied texture. Implied texture meaning the way that the artist used line, color, and shape to make something look like a certain texture. Let's use my texture sensor to try to identify all the different sort of implied textures. Let's zero in on the top of the skull. On the horn, it looks like the artist used light colors and smoothed those colors. So the implied texture looks really smooth, hard, solid, and kind of shiny. The bottom of the horn has different types of jagged, zigzaggy sort of lines, which makes the implied texture look very sharp, thin, and hard. I would say overall, this artwork definitely has examples of texture. The last element that we're looking for is space. So we're looking for either examples of positive or negative space, or the illusion of distance and depth within the artwork. Let's use my space identifying binoculars to see if we can see the different types of examples of space within the artwork. Let's switch it into positive-negative space mode. If we look, the positive space is the skull and the mountains. That's because they are both the focal point of the artwork, whereas the space around the skull and mountains, the sky, would be considered to be the negative space because it is the background of the image. Let's also switch it and look at the illusion of distance and depth. It looks as though those mountains look really far away because they're very small and low on the page. The clouds also look as though they're getting smaller and smaller where the mountains are, so it looks like it's going further away. The skull is also separated from the mountains, which looks like it's hovering way above the mountains. So I would say that this artwork definitely has an example of space. Wow, agents, it looks as though you have completed your mission. You have found all of the elements of art within one artwork. You found line, shape, color, value, form, texture, and space. Congratulations again, secret agents, and I'll see you for our next secret mission.